So we're going to start with the open forum. This is going to be for anyone who signed up online or
I have not received any written. I'm going to check real fast and see if there's anybody who's come online, but I don't think we haven't gotten those yet either. Yeah, we don't have anybody who's, you can ask the audience if there's anybody who would like to speak. Or...
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
You guys have an item on the agenda.
Okay. I guess.
Go on to the. So before we do any new business items, if we can move directly into the work session items, there's some items in here that we need to go over before we take action.
If I have something
If you want to, yeah, open forum is perfect time.
Okay, so I have something that I'd like to bring up to this. First of all, I want to thank everyone who voted for me. I want to thank the rest of the council here for just everything we've done since we've been voted on. Ben, I want to thank you for everything you've done and, helped me along with this process. However, me and my wife have been discussing our next home, which I don't believe is going to be in New Fairview. And so with that in mind, I just, I don't feel comfortable having a voting decision on things that are happening in the city, being that I'm probably not going to be around much longer. So with that being said, I'm going to resign my place as of immediately. So after this night. Oh, pretty much as of right now, because there's still things that we'd be voting on that at this point, I don't feel comfortable making decisions whenever I know I'm not going to be here long term in the city. So, yes, I want to thank everyone, but this is it for me.
Well, Patrick, my bad, and council, if you'd like to say anything, you've been a pleasure to work with. I think you brought a sense of decorum to the council and professionalism, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You stepped up to the mayor protest. Well, you had several opportunities and you've done a good job.
I'm so mad at you right now. I'm not gonna give any thank yous or nothing else. Forget it. I wanted you to stay. All right, well.
I appreciate that.
Is there another member of the council that would like to take over the running of the meeting?
Thank you,
Patrick. I'll give it a go. So we're gonna go to, next item is.
We're going to section 7, work session items.
Oh, so.
Okay, so we'll look at, section, 7, A, letter A, discussion with staff and, the Chico Code, is that how you say that, regarding the street improvement projects and transportation impact fees.
Riley?
Did you receive it?
I haven't received it yet, so, okay.
It basically just said who we were and stuff. So,
Okay. Well, so let me give you a little introduction. This is Riley. Heroic.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's a tough one.
No, it's tough. Yes, and Christopher Chop, they're our consulting engineers from Pacheco Coke. They've been working with the city for a number of years, but most recently we've been working on the streets improvement project that the council issued a $3 million bond for. And with that, you know what, I'm gonna let you guys jump in and then I'm gonna talk a little bit after you guys are done. So Riley, floor is yours.
Okay. As you were saying, I've been in charge of designing these roads. The main focus that is important to the city, mainly the council, is for the Chisholm Hills neighborhood redevelopment. We've been having our survey team work out there since November or so. They finished up their survey about beginning of March, and we've been full steam ahead on getting design done. We have been in talks with Ben. We're hoping to have our design wrapped up end of next week or so is our main goal, and we're striving as far as we can to get to that goal. That will be able to let us begin the bid process. Open up the, that will open up, we'll advertise for 2 weeks, open up bid, we'll award the bidder, and we can hopefully get construction started sometime in 6 weeks or so on these roads. The Chisholm Hills reconstruction is not the only design that we've been doing. I've also been working with is it Don Allen and John Anderson with the Fairview Meadows on Pioneer Road. We're looking at paving that, and I'm working with them and getting their roads connected to Pioneer, get an asphalt roadway on that. And then as of recently, Ben has been working with, I can't remember the
Sunrise LLC.
Sunrise LLC, the contract or a concrete company that is going to put a plant on Grand Road. And so I've also been working on design for the Grand Road. We're going with a concrete section because of their heavy truck traffic. We need to beef up the section on that road a little bit better. But I just wanted to, we wanted to come and talk to you all about our progress that we've been so far. Design is pretty close to 100% on Pioneer and Graham. And I'd say that I actually finished the design of the Chisholm Hills neighborhood today, and we are putting sheets together and getting our cost estimates and getting all the contract documents ready for hopefully April 30th, next Friday. So that, like I was saying, we can get the bid process going and get those roads for the citizens that have had to deal with those horrible roads in that neighborhood for so long.
Do you know which one you're starting on?
In the neighborhood or of all three of those?
The neighborhood.
The neighborhood, yeah.
So the way it's structured is it's kind of on the contractor. It's laid out so to do the whole thing. It'll be back to front. We're not gonna let them do the front part, drive construction
Right.
traffic over it.
Yeah,
And
so,
That's what I was gonna.
There's stipulations in terms of where he can start with, but in terms of which road at the back.
so we have the Chisholm Hill actual road, Brandon Iron, and we have the Hilltop neighborhood roads. As far as which one of those starts first, I'm not sure, but within that Hilltop neighborhood, we're definitely moving from back to front.
So, as we've talked about before, the $3 million that the council issued is not going to be enough to complete the entire project. So what we're going to be doing is working with the contractor to identify the roads that are going to be the ones that are going to be strung together the best. Now, in addition to that, I believe that we've just received the last surveys that we needed for the 2 streets that we were looking at for the grant as well. And so we're going to plan the construction of those roads around the idea that we're going to be getting the money for those roads as well. So we're going to be working on those because that money won't be available for the city to spend until October. So we're going to be looking at making the roads as part of the larger plan, but it's something that we will be working with the contractor and with the engineering firm to make sure we get, we don't have heavy equipment rolling over new roads ultimately.
And that is the main goal is, once these roads are built, you don't want to bring materials back and forth, and that just lowers the life expectancy of the roadways too.
Awesome. That's good news.
I can go over the second part B of this, is just the transportation impact fee. So.
7B, Joe.
No, it's not 7B, this is the second part, the streets
7A.
update.
Yeah,
7A.
7A, after the comma.
Right.
So I've
Y'all
got,
done a lot in the last 10 minutes.
No, we'll skip to that.
Okay.
no, let's get over new business. So I have gotten all the information I think I need. I'm trying to get together and finish up the capital improvements plan. In your packet, I believe there's a schedule. There's going to be quite a few meetings that we need to, will be in front of you, talking through It's the first part's the land use and land use assumptions, which I'm kind of just going with your future land use zoning plan as the land uses assumptions for it. And then the second part would be your capital improvements plan, basically identifying the roadway limits of widening and reconstruction and associated costs with them. Once that's adopted, you go and you form your past, you do a 30-day public hearing for it, you hold your public hearing, and you can adopt it. You also form your capital improvements advisory committee. They will meet after, I guess, they can give comments anytime on it, but they do have to provide comments 5 days before the impact fees. And so impact fee steps go next after the capital improvements plan. Basically, all the costs are divided by how much one household or equivalent service unit, which is a household, how much they generate. So let's say, we had 1 million trips, one household generates five of them, it would be 2,000 of, or
The cost.
20,000 of the cost of that. So it's kind of a math exercise at that point. Everything's predicated on the land use assumptions and the capital improvements plan. Then it just becomes kind of an accounting exercise. So that's kind of the dates, I think, stuck to the first and third Mondays when you would have them, and then work backwards from when it could be done. So if there's any questions there, it really just follows chapter 395 of the government code. It's pretty well set out. Here's what you can do, and here's how long you have to advertise everything for. Thrilling.
Any other questions? Thoughts? Well, Mayor, you
Something
want
about,
to take over?
oh, I was gonna say, so probably around the end of May, and first of June, is about what time they start working on it?
The constructions for the neighborhood roads?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And that's gonna be done first, before the other two.
Before the,
Graham
Graham
and Pioneer.
well, so Graham is a different funding source altogether, but more than likely it will be completed before the Graham Road is.
Clarify.
Huh?
Clarify that.
So tonight, you're gonna be looking at an economic development agreement between the city and the developer for the concrete plant. As part of this economic development agreement, they are going to improve Graham Road to the end of the property line in concrete. So depending upon what the timing of this construction is versus the timing of the construction of Graham Road, it may not, but they can run concurrently, or Graham might be done beforehand. It just depends on the timing of when people are moving on the projects. I don't know, and Chris, you guys could possibly give them kind of an update on this. Some of the concerns that the concrete plant is having is they're currently constructing a plant in Ponder, and they had to travel to Houston to pick up the cement to actually complete their project in Houston. So right now, concrete.
You mean in Pond?
And in Houston to complete it in Ponder.
There's starting to be some kind of real supply concerns.
Correct.
That are coming up across generally all types of facets of construction.
Yeah.
PVC, iron, a lot of contracts that the cities use, Made in America steel and stuff like that. It's just, there's kind of supply chain disruption, so to speak. It's hard to know. Sometimes you get hit by it, sometimes you don't.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to the conversation about that plant, because their concern is sequencing as well, but we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Just depends where the people source it from. Some places, you get your sales contract or something, your supplier, and they say they have it, and then run it, somebody else brings it, so.
But to answer about the neighborhood construction, we are aiming to hopefully begin advertisement at the beginning of May. And that is to advertise for contractors to bid on the job.
Super,
That is goal number 1 for us right now.
that's great, thank you.
So do you think they're gonna be able to start by like, August?
They should be starting in hopefully June.
Mid-June.
And those are
Very ideal.
really.
So you accept the bids in May,
So
and they can get the products, then
Right.
they can start in June.
Yes, sir.
if we begin advertisement, we have to run advertisement for a minimum of 2 weeks. It takes about 2 weeks to get awarded, get the schedule set, and maybe another 2 weeks after that. So we're talking
Yeah,
June
four to
time.
And we
6
don't
weeks.
have to worry about dealing with the bids at all. You will take care of that with the,
And with that,
Well,
With
so
the-
they're gonna help do that and facilitate it, but the council will award the bid.
Final bid.
Yeah,
Once-
so we'll bring it to you and we'll say, here were the bids, here's what the bids look like, and this was best bid. And we'll ask the council to make it.
does that clarify? You know, because that would end up being maybe you'd bring it to the council the middle of June.
No, that'll probably be May, in middle of May. end of May.
Before the second meeting,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is what we did.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Good news.
And to repeat again, there are going to be 3 different sources of income or 3 different sources of money to do Graham, and then to do Pioneer Road, and then to do your addition.
Bill cost, yeah, or Chisholm Trails.
So you're going to be managing and working with all 3 projects.
all 3, yes, sir. We've been designing all 3. Currently, yes, sir.
Was that clear?
No,
Clear
yes.
as mud.
Yes, sir.
No, it's, they're all 3 kind of, yes, there's 3 different ones, and they kind of all have their own little, here's this one, here's this one, here's this one.
And the only reason I wanted to repeat that was to make sure that, like you're asking the questions, and other people are wondering the very same thing. And that was an important campaign, that you wanted to make sure you took care of some of our present roads before we did some of the other roads.
Absolutely. We don't want anybody out there harassing you guys while you're working. Just kidding. Okay.
So,
Uh,
gentlemen, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit more about some other streets things.
Thank
You guys
you
are
all.
finished with them and we're gonna.
Yeah,
Good to
thanks
see you
again.
guys.
Thanks, sir.
Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Very good, very good.
So Pioneer Road, we sent out an email, let everybody know, that's been completed. That was a, kind of a partnership between the county, and the city. The county provided the the equipment and the labor to spread the base, and the city provided the materials. We got the number back, their initial estimate was as much as $12,000 to do materials for base to improve, or to bring Pioneer Road back up. It came back in at around $5,700, so about half of what they initially anticipated. During Pioneer Road, much better road today than it was a couple weeks ago. So it was good of us to be able to get that deal worked out with the county. It's much better compared to what it was.
It's almost, it's gonna get back there in the next one.
Well, but again, if you go drive that right now, there's a dirt berm on the edge of the road, because that road is the low point in that whole area. So anytime you have rain, water's gonna run down that like it's a river.
And why the county cut that, you can tell by my fence, where my fence was cut and lowered, and it's a big.
Well, and that's
They cut and
exactly-
lowered that, the county did that themselves.
Yeah.
Screwed it up years ago.
Correct. So it's that road, really the only long-term solution is when we get the improvements done to it, we actually fix the drainage and we do the road properly. But, we had been maintaining it to a certain extent, making sure potholes were filled and that stuff with the equipment that we had. But our equipment went down, and with our equipment down, the continued rainstorms, we were not able to maintain it, and it got to the point where we needed to do something, and the county agreed to partner with on it. So,
Oh, it was rough, it was terrible.
It was bad.
I heard Jeep came out.
Hmm?
Jeep came out, they were gonna put an ad on there.
I put trash in mine.
So the engineering and design for the first 815 feet of FM 407 Graham Road, that has been completed, and we provided that to Sunrise LLC, so that they have those documents to include with their bid package when they go out for their project. Sunset Mesa, that's the project that's the furthermost northern, it's just on the other side of 4421. The council annexed it in your second meeting as newly elected council members. They have recently completed installing the roads there, and they're, we're waiting on lab results to come back before we accept dedication of that road that's up there.
That was which road?
I don't know if we have the name of the road yet. It's the Sunset Mesa. It's
Up there
29
by
acres.
me, Joe.
Correct, across the
Okay.
street from Steve on 4421. And then TxDOT just signed the first work authorization for civil associates to pick up from Bill Cook Road. And on that study to extend FM 407 from Bill Cook Road to State Highway 287. So you remember we talked to that consultant, John Polster, ITS, this is going back probably 6 months ago. That's how long it took TxDOT. They agreed to do it. They just released the funding for the first portion of that project. They anticipate that it's going to take them 18 months to complete the study from Bill Cook to FM 407. The good thing about this is this, without the study being done, there is no ability for TxDOT to even look at making improvements to FM 407. Now that the study's been completed, FM 407 is on the table and now can be discussed for basically allotments of funding for improvements moving down the road. And that's all I have on streets. If you have any questions or anything specific that you'd like to discuss, I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay.
Okay, do you want me to go back to the?
No, we're just gonna work our way down here because before we take any action, there's some items that need to be discussed before we take action.
Will you just continue on?
The RV storage.
What?
The RV storage, the next will be.
Okay. Discussion with the staff regarding an RV and storage unit facility on Graham Road.
So we have Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, if you guys want to come up, they are the applicants. They actually sent an email to all of you probably 2 weeks ago, which kind of provided you an outline. It's also in the packet of what they were looking at accomplishing on this RV unit. You can hand it to you. You have something to hand out, you can hand it out. The zoning right there right now, the way it stands, is this requires a special use permit. So the council has to approve the permit in order for this project to move forward. And I asked Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds to come in and talk to you tonight before they go out and spend a bunch of money on engineering and design work and everything to gauge the council and let you kind of have an idea of what it is that they're wanting to accomplish. I also asked them to kind of reach out to some of the neighbors in that area and talk to them and let them know that this is what they're planning to do and find out what the input from their neighbors would be.
You've already done that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this related to the one that's down on 407 down
No,
from
sir.
Justin, different organization?
So if you look at the slide, you can see the highlighted area. That's the piece of property that they are looking at for the storage facility. And then we've also talked to them about if they're to put that in there, that the road would have to be improved from the end of, and actually this is too long, if you can hear, improving the road from this point to this point right here. So
Where's the sports complex, the volleyball?
the sports complex is right here.
Okay.
So we have to improve from the sports complex to our property.
You're gonna have to improve from the portion of the road that is not improved to the end of the Grand Road.
Okay, remember you and I talked last week, you said that.
We're gonna look and see if we have agreements with the other ones. I haven't found them yet, but we're gonna work on that and see where we're at on that.
So,
I'm not sure if I'm jumping the gun, but what the neighbors say.
The neighbors, they had no issue. The only issue that Elizabeth Carpenter had was about the lighting and one of the shield lighting, which I've already discussed that with Dan. And
What was the response to that? I didn't know.
the shield lighting, the lighting that's on the Texas pistols, she's unhappy with that because she can't see the stars and it keeps her up at night because the lights are too bright.
What's your solution?
Shield lighting, where the only shines the light down.
All
Yeah, they were saying they couldn't see the stars now because of the lights on.
We talked about the dark sky policy, and we told them that we'd be working on that with them. If we were-
And that was the only feedback. from
That's
the-
not the issue she had, and Paul Dawson had no issue with it all. In fact, he signed a letter before we got have it, he said he'd actually come up here and do before. The other neighbors that I thought, I just told me to talk to the meeting ones. The other one I couldn't talk to, but I talked to him
a few years ago, and they didn't have any issue then. But whenever I went to try to talk to him, there was only a young boy there, and he said nobody was home. So I couldn't talk. And Texas Pistols, I spoke with them about it. Not that they had much input, but they didn't have an issue either. And generally, I talked with them about that whole thing. Because we've been working on wanting to do this for 3 or 4 years, and we finally have the resources. We've owned the property there since 1990. And this is kind of, we're both self-employed. I'm a contractor. I've been for 40 years. My wife's been here for 4 years. This is kind of our little thing we want to do for our retirement. And that's the reason why we own the property and want to put it in. And with the facility, the new developments coming out here, there's going to be a need for a facility like that. With the homeowners associations where you can't keep a boat, you can't keep an RV, and this, that, and the other. So I think it'll be good for the city and good for us also. It's not that I'm not going to profit. But that's.
Is that gonna have both covered and uncovered storage?
Eventually it's gonna all be covered. Like my deal is, like I said, we finally accumulated the resources to move forward with this project. We're working on it. We're still waiting on engineers that don't seem to respond very quickly to get some of our engineering work we're going to do. But before I spend a lot of money, we wanted to talk with y'all about it before we did that, before we went to a lot of expense. That's the reason why in your package, you've got a preliminary, that's just a preliminary site plan. There will be some adjustments to that. There will only be one entrance and one exit.
Within your unit.
Within the unit for the people that are stored. And that will be right off the Grand Road, if you notice right there at the curve, it'll be right there. There will be another gate on a private road, but that's only for emergency vehicles and emergency vehicles or whatever. However, we have to do that where there's a lock there for them and a lock for me, but it will not be public access. It'll only be for emergency vehicles and my access.
So
Are these-
5 acres.
Yes, public access.
Are these gonna be like 10, 12 feet walls, evidently?
That's an 8-foot tall privacy fence. It's gonna be all the way around. And that is not actually our facility, that's.
Another
that's
facility.
yeah.
And we've also talked about having this broken up with vegetative screening and do some stuff so that it's more appealing to the neighbors as well, so.
So how much road do you understand that you're gonna have to improve, and how much do you think that he's gonna have to improve?
So the road is gonna have to be improved from this point here to this point right here. We have an agreement to have it improved to this point with this developer here. We have an agreement with Alpha Tanks to participate in the cost of the improvement of Graham Road. So we're going to have some dollars that we pull in from that part of the project. We are trying to identify if the city did enter into an agreement with Texas Pistols. I can't find one right now, but Monica is looking through the records. I would assume, because there were contracts with all the other developments along that road, that there's a developer's agreement out there. So we're gonna cobble those dollars together to come up with whatever that looks like. So.
And it was discussed.
This is the area that's gonna have to be improved in order for that type of development
And
to.
where is it? Where is this storage facility on that map?
This is the storage.
You're all the way
facility.
at the back?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Do you have Earth Google?
I do.
Okay.
Is that what you understood in your conversation with Ben?
Yes, sir.
And at this point right here, we're talking, well, I've reached out to him, I haven't got a call back yet. We're gonna be looking for some right of way. This is actually a private road up here. So what we're gonna be looking at doing is creating a hammer turn, basically a 3-point turn, so that people can come in, back out. Right now, people are coming up here and doing a U-turn in somebody's driveway.
Where is your entrance gonna be?
That's
there?
the
It's gonna
last
be right
house.
here, this corner.
Yes, sir.
Isn't that the last house down there?
Yeah.
Yes. Been there a few times.
Mary,
Yeah,
you
it's
wanna,
kind of a mess at the end of the day.
Yeah, because of their questions.
you wanna Google Earth?
Yeah, it would help them, I think.
I know exactly
Well,
what
I
it
mean,
is.
I do now, I know exactly.
But I'd like to see it.
I'm clear.
It doesn't take it a second.
So this is 5 acres total?
Yes, sir. And it's not the property with all the jump cars
junk.
It's, we're right, we're next to
That
it.
was good.
That
That was my
property actually
exploitation.
goes, that property actually goes up and in front of us.
And did I hear
Beyond
you
the L-shaped
correctly?
level. Pardon?
Did I hear you correctly? You purchased the property in 1990?
Yes, sir. My wife, and her, actually, when we started, her father got the VA loan for us, and then we took it out and put it back in our name. We paid it down, but he did it for us back then, and then we paid it off. But it's actually been with us since 1990.
Good plan.
Do you live in this area?
We live in Oklahoma City.
So you can look at the chemical plant where it used to be, multi-chem. Pistols. Much clearer. And Google Earth now has Fairview Meadows, Falcon Ridge
Imagery.
on Google Earth now. It was 9 months ago, but it's on there.
On Channel 5 weather the other night, they actually had New Fairview the first time I ever saw it on Channel 5 weather.
Wow, okay.
We want to reiterate, y'all, too, that this, we're not gonna let it become an eyesore. It will not be an eyesore. It's gonna be taken care of. And that's, to be frank with you, that's one of the reasons why we didn't build it on that. Just because.
You knew that it was gonna be commercial.
Not that, no. I didn't, the home that we wanted to build, I didn't want to build there.
Right.
Because I'd have to die. To be honest, frank with you, I probably have to die because I probably. Because, you know, to be perfectly honest, that's why we changed it.
Yeah. Yeah, some areas down here is kind of rough.
So what we were looking back from the council, is the council willing to consider this? Is this something the council is just not interested in seeing inside of the city limits, so that we can minimize the cost and the time and the pain and suffering of you know, the rentals? What is the council's thoughts on it?
My thoughts are with all the new development and a lot of HOAs and the deed restrictions that apply, they're gonna need somewhere to park. No sense in sending that revenue down Fort Worth or up north.
How many homes are actually on?
I think we counted that last time, there's like 10.
Yeah, we did this.
Yeah, I think it was 10 or 11 homes. And it's on
Okay, so
the,
I count right now.
If it's okay with the neighbors, it's okay.
Yeah, they said it was.
That's who we work for.
Like I said, Mr. Dawson said he would actually come up there and stand up for us if we need.
So Ben, what are we, oh, you can count the number of homes and point out the homes.
yeah, there's like 10 homes out there.
I mean, as long as you're gonna, you know, be neighborly and with the lights and not, you know, since that would be the most annoying, I would think, that and the traffic, but as long as you're, I mean, it looks like a beautiful fence if you're gonna do this. So you're already being very considerate, so if you take care of the light situation, I don't have a problem.
How many
Well,
spots did you have in there? I didn't count.
They're gonna have to go through engineering and a site
There's
plan.
roughly 200 on now, but that's what, the other thing is there's not gonna be really that much traffic. I mean, there is gonna be some traffic, but they're gonna bring them and they're gonna store them. You're gonna have, it's gonna be sporadic, you know, they're gonna drop their boat off. The heaviest traffic may be on Thursday, Friday for a weekend, if they're going on the weekends. Some people, I look at a lot of them, they say, they might go once or twice a year.
Definitely.
Yeah, so they just-
Summertime more than the wintertime.
Yes, sir.
That's very true.
So that the actual traffic, and that's what I want the neighbors to make sure that, especially on the private road where Elizabeth Carpenter and Paul live, there's not gonna be any traffic on their private road from this. It's all gonna be off of them.
Right.
So Ben, you're gonna get with him and
Mhm.
put together something to bring it in.
Yeah,
for us
so
to
we've
vote
already
on?
sat down and talked, and we've given them the checklist, the documents that we need to do. What I said those, I wanted them to come talk to you and just gauge your interest as to whether or not you'd be willing to look at this and move down, because it does require a vote from the council to approve the permit. And so if the council is not interested in seeing this inside the city limits, then I wanted to let them know as quickly as possible.
And you don't have any other facilities like this?
No,
This is gonna be your only,
this is all gonna be our.
is there gonna be on-site, management?
No, sir, we're gonna have a 24/7 security. It's gonna be a secure gate. And there's a lot of other facilities now, and I really, my brother keeps his boat, he lives out of state, but it's really intrigued me. I thought at first they'd have to, but you go online with theirs, and you fill out the contract, and you either give a debit card or a credit card, they give you a gate code, and they give you your space number. And every month, that's it. The only thing that's in addition to this I made that I've looked at with a lot of these facilities that people complain about not having is a wash bay. We're on that preliminary where it says a shop and an office. That's probably not gonna be a shop and office, that's probably gonna turn into a wash bay. And I've already talked with Southwest Water about running water up there for the water for us, and it is gonna have a dump station. For people to dump their RVs if they want to come. It's like they wanted to wash day so they can wash their RVs in the boats.
It's gonna have to be quite a sizable dump station and septic system to.
Yes, sir.
They'll have to have it done pretty often, cleaned out.
What was the answer that you got about water?
Whenever we called Southwest, they said they could run the water up there for a very reasonable price. That's the reason why we decided not to do it.
It wouldn't be very far.
And you don't have to worry about how the water tastes. It's just gonna be washing it off.
They need to put in like a separation tank, oil.
For a wash bay, yeah, they're gonna have to have some type of a collection system that pulls the stuff out of it. That's gonna be state requirements, so we'll have to have that.
They'll be a total.
Yeah.
And I haven't put that in yet, that's just a consideration. I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
That could be a little costly.
That could be future.
Yeah.
And I mean, is what, the other thing we're trying to do is, as much as we're gonna have to put in this, is we may do this in stages. And do, whenever you ask me the question, it's all gonna be covered. What I would like to do is cover until I run out.
Right.
And cover as much as we can, but then we're gonna get all the groundwork done and have some open storage, and it'll be, roped off or sectioned off for storage out maybe out in the middle, but we're gonna start with the perimeter for sure. And put in the fence all the way around, and that way it's just, and maybe do stages, and as it goes, and we may move people. They may have to move it to cover as we build.
So is it gonna be only motor type vehicles
No.
or is there gonna be storage for household goods?
RV and boat storage, I don't want the many storages
Right.
because honestly, if you can afford an RV or boat, you're probably gonna pay for your space and you're not gonna run off and leave it. And I don't want people's stuff out of their attics. If I do the mini storage out of the garage, where I have to deal with them either not paying or having to get rid of it.
You'll have a lot of
I'm getting to the age I want it simplified.
He wants to star in storage water.
I want storage.
At least you got something worth selling, right, if they take off.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But there's at least be minimal turnover with that and people paying the bill. I just, like I said, we're at our age, we're trying to simplify what we do. That's the reason for, you asked me not having an office. There may be one of them, a small office.
I agree.
But she and I talked about maybe just taking one of the stalls and then closing it. And just for us, just in case, we're there and we need to do something. But as far as somebody staffing in every day, there's not.
It's gonna be nobody living there 24/7.
There's going to be nobody living there, period. And that's one concern that we talked about. Everybody kept saying, we don't want an RV park. It's not an RV park.
Right.
Nobody's going to live there. It's just an RV and boat storage. People come and get them or leave them.
Awesome.
Ready to move on?
Ready to move on?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the pictures too.
Thank you.
Okay, C, discussion with staff on to define the city council's attendance policy.
So, I received a request from a council member asking to know what attendance, was defined as. For that, what the requirements are. So I forwarded that on to Bradley. Bradley came back, and after reviewing the statutes, it basically says that a council member needs to be in attendance, but it does not define attendance. And it is left up to local control. So He recommended that the council actually define it and we incorporate it into the decorum and procedures, or the procedures and decorum policy. And basically the council really has some leeway as to what they would like to define that as. Is it when somebody shows up and takes roll, that's counted as attendance, or is it somebody needs to be present for, 90% of the votes that are taken? If they're not, then that's not, they're not counted as present for that meeting. So I'm leaving it to you. Do you guys have a desire to define what attendance is? And if so, what do you guys want attendance to look like? How do you want to measure that?
I had no idea there was not a state statute attendance, but there apparently is not. I've seen this in the past for cities like Rome. Theirs is or was, if you miss 3 meetings, you don't have a medical reason or something like that, then you're out. I guess it's different everywhere.
Though there is, so that is the statute. If you are not in attendance for 3 meetings, then the council, correct, then the council can remove you from the position. But it says attendance, but that attendance is not defined. So the council can define what attendance means. So if a member shows up and just sits for roll call and then gets up and walks out,
Why would anybody do that? I guess I'm confused as to why anybody would take roll call and leave.
So,
Didn't want to be here.
Then why be on the council if you don't want to be here to hear what everybody has to say, what's being passed, what's being voted on, why sit on the city council if you're not going to sit here till the end and participate in the entire meeting? I guess I just need clarification.
I can't speak to that. All I
Can
can,
anybody else speak to that? Why does anybody want to do that?
It doesn't make sense to me, but.
that's why I said, and we have one gentleman already just resigned because he's not going to be able to be here. Right?
If you don't want to be till the end
Not
of
to
the
be
meeting, just get off
here,
the
then you
council.
shouldn't be on the council at all.
I think the key point, I just without any thought at all, I mean, at least I would think you need to be here for the votes. Were there votes included in the agenda? If you're not there for the votes, why are you on the council?
I would go further and say, if you're
I mean,
not
that's
here to
minimum.
stay, like the rest of us we're all volunteering our time, we all work,
Right.
most of us. Work, we have families, we have lives, we're here doing this to help our city. If you don't want to do that, then go about your way.
Yeah.
So my vote is attendance is here until we're done and adjourned and it's over.
I can't disagree with that, but minimum through the votes.
I'm the same way with her, that you need to be here through the whole thing. You're not going to be here through the whole thing, you don't need to be on the council.
So does that mean if you get up and leave during the executive session, which is often held at the very end, then
For what the executive session is held in.
At the executive session, if you're involved in the executive session, you're given a choice. Okay, that choice is you can be there or you don't have to be
That's right.
there. Okay, so if the person chooses not to be there, then that's different. Okay,
is it?
yeah, it is, because you're given the choice, you're given the choice.
So,
You're given the choice.
so Walter, the thing you're talking about is if I choose to be in the executive session and it's about me, I can choose to be present or not present.
Right,
The council as a whole is supposed to be in the executive session.
right.
So that is a.
But don't they have the same right as you do? If the council member's been one that's been talked about, they can leave or they don't have to
You always
leave.
have the right to leave.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a personnel action, then the person has the right to choose to be present, not be present, or to bring it out into a public meeting.
Public meeting, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So that would be the exception to the rule. Most of our executive sessions are related to
Well,
economic development.
you can't say that everybody has to be here. If a person's sick, you want them to get up and throw up in the floor, and you want them to look.
Being
I
sick
mean, you
is a
gotta
little
use
bit
common
different.
sense.
This is what the discussion is for.
Being sick is a little bit different, obviously. I
So,
don't want you
Steve,
here if you're sick.
why are you not wanting to be here? Because you're the one about to say.
I don't think Steve doesn't want to be here.
I never
He
said
just wants
that.
to call
I never
clarification.
said that.
Well-
I said, if
I can read the email if you'd like to read the email.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
says,
read the email.
what is the,
Show us the
the minimum requirements for council attendance? And also said that New Fairview is, as recent as a week ago was a laughing stock of Wise County.
I wonder where that is.
I don't know, it was real estate.
I think they
It
are
was a
too.
real estate agent that snickered when I told him where I was from.
Yeah.
It says, I need a legal opinion, not yours. I want to have as little participation as possible as a councilman. I want to know what constitutes attendance at a city council meetings. Can I stay for roll call then leave? I want to see city attorney Bradley's opinion in writing. New Fairview is the laughing stock of Wise County in North Texas. Oh, and I ain't leaving. I'm the only voice of independence on the council.
See that? I never said I wanted to leave.
But you said you wanted to have those possible owners. I mean, what difference?
What are some examples of other cities?
Well, honestly, when I look at other cities, most cities don't have an issue with the council member wanting to not attend the meetings. So Bradley had to do research on this because he's never come across it either. So I've not seen any other council policy that talks about attendance. Attendance is generally a person shows up and stays for the meeting, and that's counted as attendance. And there's always exceptions. I mean, there are people that have doctor's appointments, or they've got something that happens and they have to leave in the middle of the meeting, and as long as they're letting everybody know beforehand, then it's usually not an issue. What this really comes down to, though, is it becomes hard if you have a council member that refuses to show up, especially if you have a person that resigns and then you have another person that is ill or traveling. You no longer have a quorum. And so you can no longer carry out city business because you have a council member that's refusing to show up. That's the reason why they provide for the removal option for a council member.
I think you said it, if you show up, you just expect to stay to the end unless you have prearranged to leave or whatever, a doctor appointment or if you get sick, obviously, you can get up and leave, but,
So what happens if they get sick every meeting?
well, if I was an employee, I'd fire them, right?
And they're being dishonest, and I don't
After a while.
understand why you want to stay on a council that you don't want to be part of.
I work for the people of the city. I don't work for the city council. I don't work for them.
Nobody works for them here,
We all-
so.
Well, that one statement that he made about leaving right after the meeting started was only one of about 10 statements in that letter that he had.
Yes.
So I think you can kind of push that to one side. I think Steve was probably, I'm talking for you right now. That was just kind of like a aggravation button or something in that letter. And and it's smart if you get mad in a meeting, it's sometimes a lot better to get up and leave the meeting than to blow up at times. And I really think from what I hear from Steve, when he comes, he's gonna usually stay here at every one of the meetings. Is that right, Steve?
Absolutely.
To clarify that. So we can kind of push that one statement over to one side and move on. Now, before we had property taxes, Monica and I had to go down to council members' houses and say, hey, get in your car and get up here. We had to have a quorum to get up here. But for some reason, after we started property taxes, we have not had a problem with getting people to come to the meetings. And we have a lot more things on our agendas with all the developments. And we have a lot of decisions to make at the meeting. I'm thinking if a person doesn't show up for 3 months and doesn't have a legitimate reason, being like medical, or I had to go and take care of a child in another state or something like that, they even had the possibility, from what we had learned through COVID, that they can get online and participate in the meetings. So that's another whole variable that we have,
So that's,
that we have now.
the legislature is talking about that right now, whether or not they're going to continue to allow virtual attendance of meetings. As COVID is ramping down, you've got a lot of agencies that are backing off and not renewing any of those procedures and protocols. So depending upon what legislature action is taken, there's a very good chance that virtual meetings, from the standpoint of a person being present but not in the room, is going to go away. So we don't know what that's going to look like in the relatively near future. So what we need to determine here tonight, and it's your decision, is how do you want to define that attendance? So you're saying if they just don't show up at all for 3 months, then that's what you consider attendance, no show up at all. What I'm hearing from some of the other council members is you have to show up and you have to stay through the end of the meeting in order for that to be in attendance. So we just need to have a consensus or some type of an idea of what we want that language to say. I'm going to write it out, read it back to you, and then we've got an action item to adopt this and put it into the decorum policy. So moving forward, if a council member does show up and walk out, or if a council member does show up and doesn't participate in the meeting, then that will count as an absence. And then we can start tracking that and making sure that we're holding people accountable.
Correct, and just to clarify, you said 3 months, but now that we're doing 2 meetings a month, do you mean 3 meetings?
No, I meant 3 months.
So it should be 3 meetings.
I think
You
three
want to have
meetings.
just 3 meetings.
Isn't that what the norm is? But they
3
say
meetings, 3 regularly scheduled.
Three
So-
regular
yeah.
scheduled.
Unless we switch back in 1 meeting a month, but that may not be for another 2
I
or
don't
3
see
years.
that.
Yeah, 3 meetings.
3 meetings.
They don't come in for 3 meetings, they need to be.
Consecutive.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So if they don't come in, or if they don't come in and maintain presence, what I'm hearing.
If
Okay,
maintaining presence
presence,
until the end of
okay,
the meeting.
maintain presence, yes. Is that all right with you? No?
Yep.
Steve?
Presence for what?
The
If
entire-
Presence for the entire.
if the voting is over, that should be all that's required.
If the city
Well, how
wants
you,
you to get on the
okay,
city council, then they want you to be part of the city council, and to do that, you have to be present for the entire meeting, know what's going on, so we don't have to explain it, and play catch up. So the entire meeting, I would think professionally, since you got voted in, you need to be here for the entire meetings,
So until the meeting is adjourned.
yes.
Ben, do you have that information?
So I'm going to read back to you. So basically, council attendance.
What the citizens want, what they're looking for, you don't want to skip out before it's done, really think about it, you protect them. You're their advocate, so it makes sense to stay here the whole time, just to protect them.
I didn't catch what you said at the beginning. Or you-
He's given them a
Okay. So council, city council attendance policy will be defined as being present at roll call and present until the adjournment of the meeting. Okay.
Okay, we have enough information. We're going to move on to D. Discuss with staff a public improvement district PID policy. So in other words, you want to talk to us about, you gave us examples of other cities.
In general, each subdivision has their own PID.
Correct. So a PID is a improvement district, and each development's gonna be a little different. So Shoot Ranch looks different than Constellation Lakes. They both have a PID. What I'm recommending is that the council consider looking at developing a PID policy. So before they even come into the city, when they approach, they pull up and they see on our website that the city has a PID policy. When I was in Ennis, we developed a PID policy, and we said, these are the things that we're looking for. We want improved quality of housing. So, down there were a lot of starter homes that were starting off at 1,200 square feet, and your price point was $175,000. They wanted to see homes starting off at $225,000 or $250,000. So they were willing to offer PIDs if the people who were coming to develop would put in a higher quality home, which means more masonry on the whatever it is to increase the value of the home. They were interested in seeing fiber connectivity, so they wanted to have that. So those were basically, you're creating an incentive for developers, you're saying these are the things that we would like to see brought into our community. And we're willing to consider a PID if you're going to help us accomplish these particular things that the city would like to see moving forward. So for us, we like, what I'm hearing is you guys like larger lots. So you might say, we will consider a PID for a residential development if you incorporate X amount of your lots as large estate lots. Those are the types of things that you can do in a PID, and that just shows people what it is that you're looking for, and it allows them to understand what they need to do and what they need to bring to the city. And so the plans are going to be more aligned with what you're looking for to begin with, rather than us having to go through a bunch of iterations of them saying, okay, is this what you want? And you're saying, well, no, not really, come back with something else. They'll have an idea of where the city is coming from the very beginning.
Makes sense.
I think a PID is good, but I don't think a blanket policy is good.
No, so a PID policy basically just says we won't even consider potentially. You could say in order for a PID to be considered, you have to check at least 5 of these boxes. So you have to have fiber connectivity, you have to have surface water, you have to have a wastewater collection system, you have to have increased parks and open space compared to the rest of the city, and you have to have whatever else that is. And if you don't check these 5 boxes, then we won't even. That's your choice. You could say 3, you could say 2, you could say it has to just have representation from these different areas. But ultimately, that's the idea behind what you're wanting to do. You're just basically putting out into the world, this is what we're looking for. And the developers that are out there looking for these types of projects can say, hey, this is what we like to do. This is our product that we like to work on. Let's go to New Fairview and let's see what we can put together.
Then each of those developers take that generic, I'll call it generic PID.
And we go through the same
modify it
process.
For their
Correct.
particular
Yes.
subdivision.
I absolutely agree with generic, not a blanket
No,
policy.
generic.
Yeah, there is no generic PID. They all have to go through the approval process. The council has to go through and approve anything that comes forward. What this PID policy is saying is, these are the things that we want. If you want us to consider a PID, you have to incorporate these elements.
Okay, so let's come up with 10 or 12 and then tell them they got to have 5 out of 12 or whatever.
Correct. And so if you look at those policies that I shared with you, you can see in some of them, they had 8 or 10 different things that they were looking for. Improved entry monuments and elements. They wanted more open space. They wanted parks. So what is it that the city of New Fairview would like? And this is something we don't have to come up and define tonight. I just want you guys to be thinking about it. We can put it back into another work session. And you guys have a chance to kind of write down some of your ideas, and we can develop that out and come back with a good document.
Yeah, that way it gives us more time to look over what you put out there. I got about
Give
half
me your
of it.
definition of a PID, I want to make sure I'm on the right track here.
So a PID is a public improvement district. It's a geographic region where you are self-assessing the property owners to make
They're
improvements.
different, Joe, remember, like Fairview Meadows and Constellation Lake and Shoe Ranch, they're different. So, yeah, that's why I say I'm against a blanket policy.
Yeah, because Falcon Ridge did not use it.
That's right.
And Constellation Lake used a PID.
Correct.
Bologna did not use a PID because they're gonna pay for all the infrastructure out of their funds from the lots, like Falcon Ridge.
Mhm.
Fairview Meadows is a legislative,
It's a mud.
it's a mud
Mhm.
type situation, which is different.
It's very similar to a PID. The only difference is it's legislatively created instead of the city creating it.
Correct. And that, whenever he did that, Don Allen, he had to make sure, he had his attorney staff in here trying to get that information into the legislation session.
Correct.
And to finish where he could get it to be that way. And then over here at the new Shoe Ranch, that is a PID.
That is a PID, correct.
And 2 different things.
And there are other things as well. You might have another developer that comes in and they say, we want to do a MMD, which is a municipal management district. It's a legislatively created instrument as well, different from a MUD, different from a PID, but ultimately they're all looking at the same type of a scenario in that they have the ability to levy taxes on a geographic region. And that is overlaid on top of the rest of the tax stack. So, they're all looking for the same type of a situation. unique for.
Like in the shoe branch, it's gonna be up to $1 per $100 valuation.
For the capital portion, correct.
And then 15 cents per 100 on the economic development
On the O&M side for operations.
operation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do then is we'll put this back onto the agenda. If you guys kind of, over the next couple of weeks, start jotting down some notes, things that you'd like to see incorporated into the policy document. I sent you a couple samples. If you want some more, let me know. I know New Braunfels, there's a number of cities that are starting to put these policies into place so that they better communicate with developers what they're looking for up front.
Okay.
And my point is, it's a real broad, and that's your saying, it's very broad.
I mean, because you got street widths, you got, if we're gonna have surface water and wastewater, you're gonna have storm drains at some point. There's a lot of issues that we need to address.
And when Don Allen came in, the number that surprised me 4 years ago, the attorneys, his main office was out of Houston, Texas. And they said at that time, 72% of all new developments in the state of Texas, in city and out, were done through some type of PID or mud, where they tax that area.
There's a lot of, there's TERS, there's TIFs, there's PIDs, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different tools, but they all ultimately come back to the ability for the developer to seek reimbursement for improvements because they're going to provide something better. I mean, basically the statement is without this, we wouldn't have this. And if you don't give us the PID, then you don't get this improvement. So you're seeing the parks, and you're seeing the other elements because the PID is in place and it allows them to spend money somewhere else that they would otherwise.
And part of the reason they went to that is because the cities couldn't afford to provide the water or the infrastructure out of their own tax dollars.
Well, developers pay for their own infrastructure anyways.
Right.
So it's just, if the developer has to spend $300 million on infrastructure, then that means they don't have the money to spend on 13 miles of trails potentially, or the amenity centers, or all of the park facilities and everything else. So without the PID being in place to reimburse for a portion of the cost of the infrastructure, they don't have the dollars necessary freed up to go out and do these other things which make the development better than it would be otherwise.
And you did a very good job negotiating with the shoe branch.
Well, I think the council did a great job. You made.
Well, I mean, you were the one doing it, the one-on-one with them. But then the information that you brought us at the last meeting, and it was in the Wise County Messenger, about the safety programs, et cetera, and the roads and the impact fees, a lot of hurdles were established at that point in time. How do y'all feel?
Oh, 100% agree.
Okay.
Yep, hats off, Ben.
Well, thank you. Yeah, but like I said, clear expectations and clear idea and working with the council, letting us know what it is that we want to accomplish. And that's another thing, this PID policy makes it very clear for me, when I'm working with these developers, I have a very clear idea of what it is that the council wants. So the better we define it, the better able I am to get and bring back what the council is looking for.
Absolutely.
And it makes it easier for all of us.
And it seems you're having a lot of opportunities to work with different developers right now. I'm grinning even with this mask on as I say that. Okay. That's enough on that?
That's enough. We'll add it back in.
E, discussion with staff regarding maintenance equipment upgrades.
So the Pioneer Road and Graham Road kind of are good examples of the issues that we've been having. The tractor and the equipment that we have here, all of it was purchased in 2007. I don't know if it was just a good year for sales tax, and so they went out and bought some equipment, but the trailers, the truck, the tractor, it was all purchased in 2007.
I can tell you real quick.
Okay.
We tried doing a lot of contract work, and the people that were coming in to do the contract work were so expensive. We put the pencil and paper to it, and we found out that we could hire somebody to come in at that particular time. Even when Steve was on the council with different people, We found out what little we had to do, we could do it ourselves.
Right.
And that, in 2007, that was when that decision was made.
So what we found is, and I think Josh is in the back there, so he can kind of talk to you a little bit about this if you'd like to talk to the person who's having to work with the equipment. You know, the tractor has basically been out of service for 6 weeks, at least now. We've been ordering parts are no longer available. The dealer does not sell them anymore, so now we've moved on to secondary markets for remanufactured or refurbished parts. Yes.
So, are you sure it's the tractor or the driver?
Well, I will say this, we're lucky that tractor hasn't burned up, because it's had a fuel leaking problem for years.
It's a diesel, right?
Yes.
How many hours does it have on it?
About 2,200 hours.
All right, that's not a whole lot for diesel.
But you got a Fiat on,
Huh?
a Fiat manufactured product.
What
It's
kind
a European
of
product.
Yeah.
That's your problem.
What kind of tractor?
It's a Fiat tractor, which is New Holland. Case New Holland is owned by Fiat.
All I know is we've been down for 6 weeks. I think in the last 6 weeks, we spent almost $5,000 trying to get the thing back up, and it's not been one big thing. It's like, we need a $1,500 fix, and then over here, we need another $800 fix, and now we need a well, the last thing I got shows me $2,700. So I asked Josh to reach out to some of the local dealers and identify some potential options for us so that we can get the roads fixed. Part of the reason why we were looking at that partnership with the county on Pioneer Road is we didn't have the ability to do it. We've been trying to get up there on hilltops to fill in some of these potholes. The tractor will not start. We can't load the asphalt into the back of the trailer to get it up there and get that stuff done. So,
In other words, you're trying to use a tractor like a bulldozer.
well, it's just,
It's
not a
all
bulldozer.
and then the top of
Actually,
what they're having to do.
all the mechanisms that have gone wrong with it, from the control mechanisms, which were plastic, so age bit that dust out. That was 2 days after I started, and that went out. Then a week or so later was the gasket system to the hydraulic system. So again, age and just use put that out for the hydraulics. And then we went to the main diesel injection pump, which is where we ran into the part of no longer being made and having to go to, and that was a casting leak. So again, something that wasn't caused by abuse. The tractor's not being used as a bulldozer, but I can't break into that main of asphalt after it's set without having the force of the tractor to be able to dump it into the trailer. And one little shovelful in the back of the skid, for the way these roads are, especially Chisholm, that's a waste of time. The last time I went a block and a half, and that took me 3 yards of asphalt to get that far. So the tractor is a necessary entity to the function of all the gravel roads, the culverts, anything and everything that needs to be done around.
Just so new.
What horsepower is it approximately, do you know?
So the current tractor is right at about 60 horsepower, just shy.
That's a lot.
And it's a 2-wheel drive tractor.
2-wheel drive?
2-wheel drive, yes, sir.
What's a new one like that, right?
So-
$54,000.
Yes, we've gone out and looked at it, and this is not $54,000 to replace, this is an upgrade. So the $54,000 also includes a backhoe attachment to the tractor, 9-foot backhoe. It also includes a grading scraper. So we can go out there and we can maintain the gravel roads that we need to maintain until they're improved. The gravel scraper portion of it's relatively small, probably save us $2,000 or $3,000. But it's well worth it from the standpoint of being able to maintain those gravel roads until they're improved. We don't know how long it's going to be for Fairview Meadows. It could very easily be 2 years before Pioneer Road is improved. So we're going to be on the hook for making sure that that road stays in decent condition until they get to a point where they're going to be connecting to Pioneer Road from the development. And I don't know what that time is going to be, and Don can't tell me what that time is going to be because it's all dependent upon how quickly the homes sell and how quickly the project moves forward. And they're facing the same problem that everybody else is in getting lumber and getting building materials to get out there and do the project. So we're in a situation where we're gonna have to maintain it, and we're gonna be spending these dollars elsewhere, or we can do this here. And ultimately, it's gonna save us time and effort from the standpoint of, we're gonna use less resources from the standpoint of our staff time and also materials, because right now, the other item I'm recommending that we get is a vibrating rolling compactor, so that when we go out there and we do patch these things, we can actually patch it and make the stuff stick for a while. Right now, we fill it in, and then we back over it a few times with a car, tractor, truck, whatever it is, and we go on down the road. The next rainstorm we have, that stuff's getting washed out.
So what's the price on that tractor with that cab?
Without the cab,
About $2,000 difference.
Yeah.
How much?
That's $2,000, less than $2,000 difference between an open station and a closed station.
they bid this out on a buy board, so basically this is a state negotiated contract price, so any city or municipality or governmental entity is paying the same price for these.
So you said it was an upgrade.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
So, if you don't
Go
mind,
ahead.
okay.
It's a better tractor.
So, well, this particular model, which was the only one that we could get that would also accept the backhoe attachment on it as well, is running a credit just shy of 70 horsepower. It is four-wheel drive, and it is a hydrostatic transmission versus the current one, which has got about 8 different shifters. I mean, I can do it all day long, but this just makes the operation that much simpler.
So is there any value in the tractor that we have? I mean, can the city?
Okay, so.
John's making us a great offer right now.
If we can get the
John
thing,
could probably get us a better deal.
if we can get the thing back up and going again, we were offered a $6,500 trade-in.
$6,500 to pay for you.
Of course, we have to spend it, get it back up and running again, but at least there is some value left in that, yes.
So what are you gonna do, just keep throwing money in there and out there?
Well,
So the part that we're looking at right now is $2,700.
okay, so that clears us $4,000.
If that fixes it this time.
So this is a Kubota, right?
Correct,
So did we look at, John Deere, did we look at Mahindra?
Yeah, we did, I would never look at Mahindra, no offense, sir. I'm not gonna buy something out of India. We did contact John Deere, we did, and they, after about 2 weeks in repeated contacts, they did not reply back with anything, not even a straight bid. We did contact McCormick and go with a bid from them, and they said literally, this is what it will cost you, thank you. They did not send it to buy boards or anything like that. Sherman, who handles the straight municipalities for Zimmer and Kubota, has showed up at multiple occasions, provided us with literature, and sent the appropriate buy board bids, and has been very accommodating.
So to give you an idea, we went out and we looked at this vibrating roller compactor, and we went out to some local companies to get a price quote. The price quote that he got back from the one person that actually replied, everybody is swamped with orders right now. I mean, that piece of equipment right now, the guy that we're looking at is holding one for us until tomorrow. If the council says yes, then he says he'll do it for us, because like, I've already got buyers for everything I can get.
Yes.
You can't take if you buy it tomorrow, you probably won't get it till July, is ultimately what we're looking at. But the quotes that we were getting from local people, it was almost $50,000 for that roller, for that
Yes.
compacting rolling.
H&E equipment, single quote, and it was 41,000.
Yeah.
52,000 was what we had in the end.
So this one right here, yeah, 50, whatever it was ridiculously expensive. This one's coming out of Pennsylvania. They deal with a number of different cities. I've used them before when we purchased equipment in other cities. I called him and I was like, this seems high. He's like, yeah, that's high. I can do it for $15,000 for the exact same piece of equipment, exact same deal. So these two pieces of equipment, and there's a few, this does not add up to $75,000. We're also looking at basically a crack sealer, so that when we get this crack sealer, basically it heats up and you can put melted rubber into cracks and asphalt so we can maintain roads. So there's some other things that we're looking at in that dollar amount as well. But these two pieces of equipment, if we want to do a good job and we want the stuff that we put on the ground to actually stick and stay there for a while, we need to make some investments in the equipment that we have. Where we are this year currently, we are, the purchase price of the equipment we're talking about is less than we are over on our revenues for building permits. So this would be something that we're making an amendment to our budget for, but we already have exceeded the amount of money that I'm coming to you and asking for out of revenues above what we were budgeted for the current fiscal year. Correct. So this is something that is going to, make us more effective, more efficient, and it's going to improve the quality of the driving on the roads. Otherwise we're going to be continually struggling with the same situation that we have right now.
Have you sat down and worked with, I know you've worked with him, but with like John? You looked at other cities too, and my big question is, how much equipment do we really need to have enough equipment to service the city in the future? Are you gonna need like the road graders in the future? Are you gonna need additional bigger mowers in the future? Do you really need to have a 100 horsepower tractor instead of a 70? Or are you going to need to have backhoes? What are all the pieces of equipment that a basic city needs? And this is gonna be a pretty big city.
So we're gonna need additional equipment, but
You don't have the money.
at this point in time, we are not going to be even looking at it. I mean, every city needs a backhoe. This is gonna meet our needs for what we're funding right now. But yeah, down the road, we're gonna need to have some investment in some additional equipment, but that's gonna be several years down the road.
And the rental program was good last year with that backhoe. They got a good rate on that per week, didn't they, or not?
Well, I mean, they had that for about 6 months, and we probably spent,
2,000 per week, or
we probably spent $30,000 or $40,000 on it. That's half the price of that tractor that we have.
John, who did you work for?
I work for the industrial division of Deere. Who? I work for the industrial division of Deere, RDO.
Oh, RDO, yeah.
I'm gonna say this with John Taylor, he's gonna be on the council in another 2 weeks.
I just have.
Or no, he has a lot of experience with equipment.
I'm more than happy. This is a buy board project that is up there, so we don't have, the state's already gone out and bid for it. If you can help me come up with a better solution.
The trend now in governmental is governmental leasing, because when you end up with what's the same problem you had with your blue tractor. There's no support for it, and you're stuck with it. A government like this, you can't trade it in. You have to post up, you have to go down auction yourself. So the going right now is government leasing.
So from a standpoint of leasing it versus getting rid of this, I will always say that we're paying cash for this. If we lease it, we're gonna be paying interest, and we're gonna be paying carrying costs for it. We're going to be paying for the greatest part of that thing that depreciate out over 3 years, they're gonna give us back whatever they give to us. If we pay cash for it now, it's just like buying a car, and if we say every 3 years we want to replace our piece of equipment, then we take it out and sell it and buy a new piece of equipment. With the type of use that we're gonna get out of this, we got 14 years out of the last tractor. If we get 14 years out of this tractor, I'll be tickled pink. I don't see it as a big issue from the standpoint.
Now, one of the maybe advantages of lease, I assume they provide all the maintenance for them.
Most government leases we do, yes.
Yeah, we
Which can be quite a bit.
well, any dealership, when you're doing this, if you pay for that, you're gonna pay for it here as well.
Of course.
So
It's always.
it's coming out of one pocket or the other, so you're gonna pay for it all, and if we want to buy a service contract for this, then we add that to the cost.
Why don't we just take some public bids like most cities do?
So the reason why you go,
Why?
Nobody does that,
No.
because you end up with junk.
so,
I see bids in the paper, all newspaper all the time.
Usually for contractors, not for.
so the state goes out to all the major manufacturers and basically says, if you want to have a buy board product, you can submit a bid to us, and this meets all the bid requirements for the state. And it removes the obligation from us to go out and find 3 different people to bid on.
Kubota's not the only one that's doing that.
No, we can go find other products. If you're saying you don't like the Kubota and you want us to come back with something else,
No,
then we can
no,
come back
I'm
with something
saying
else.
if we don't shop around, we're not gonna get the best deal.
Sounds like he's been shopping.
Hendershot Tractors up there, Max Case, did we talk to them?
Case is New Holland, same tractor, we talked New Holland, same daggone tractor, exactly the same to the T. The only difference is a metal door versus a plastic door for Case, and that's it.
Yeah, we've been kicking tires on a bunch of different options for the last 6 weeks as we were trying to figure out what to do with the situation that we're in
Well,
right
this
now.
is not something we can vote on tonight anyway.
Yes, it is. It's on the agenda for an action item.
Oh,
What-
somewhere else?
Yeah, at the beginning. And so basically what I'm asking is the council approve, the city administrator to spend up to $75,000 purchasing streets equipment. And ultimately what we're looking at is these two items, and I'm trying to find a place where we could get some hot rubberized crack seals so we can maintain these roads once they're fixed.
Now, is this a good deal for the government, the city government?
Well, so to give you an idea,
Is there a discount?
Well, if you were to go buy that tractor right now,
Double.
if you walked in to buy that tractor right now, you would be paying a very 14,000 and change more. So we got about 12,000 off the tractor itself, plus the discount on the implement. So you would probably pay anywhere between 14 and 15,000 now if you were to walk into any Kubota dealership and purchase that.
and John, I'm not.
Traditionally on a buy board, the government agency is gonna be paying less than say if you went with this, the city would be paying less than if Zimmer ordered it to put on their lot to resell to the general public.
Okay.
Because of the discounts through the manufacturer, to him. He's only getting paid, Zimmer's gonna be getting, if you bought from Zimmer, he's getting paid to uncrate it, what we do call PDI, he's gonna set it up and PDI, wash the wax, make sure it's right. And he's getting paid for the manufacturer. You'll be buying it cheaper than he's buying.
Okay.
That's what it was in the deer business.
And that's correct.
We could never touch. If you go out to bid, traditionally a bid is gonna be higher than a buy board, because the bid, the dealer is taking a little bit of government discount, and it's all on him. Buy board, it's all on him. There's no reason to ever go to bid. I know people do, but there's no reason to ever.
It also takes us about 90 days to go through the bid process.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
gonna say.
if that's why when we brought you the application before, we said we want to join the buy boards, it will save us money and it saves us time. And in this case, it saves us time of these roads decaying further where we don't have the ability to go out and maintain them.
Well, I know, just from experience with, they brought the asphalt and put it in the holes over on our road, Montana Court a year ago. Was it been a year ago? Maybe 6-8 months ago. They just shoved it out of the trailer and threw it in the hole and drove off. They didn't run over with the truck.
Well, I run over the truck,
So-
the transmission on that truck and testified, let me be clear.
Artie and I went out there with a compactor and packed it down the whole road because, it's because I know why, he didn't have the equipment to do it.
Right.
So, I understand, at least with this, we could do
Yeah, if we go out there and we try to blow as much out of the hole as we can, so there's no debris, and then we fill it with the asphalt. This is a good
it. They didn't
asphalt.
do that,
Yeah.
they didn't clean them out.
Right, yeah, I like to clean them and put the asphalt in, and then give it to the cold roll, and you're gonna get a lot.
What about putting oil in there before you put the asphalt?
Water, actually, is what you do. Usually wet it, and what that does, that keeps the product from absorbing into each other, so you get a greater bond. Same with asphalt sealing. It's the same
All of
thing.
these products come with manufacturers' recommendations for installation. So if it tells us to heat it and put oil in first, we're gonna do that. If it tells us to put water in the hole before we fill it, we're gonna do that. But the product that we got the recommendation from Don. He's the street superintendent for Highland Village. He's been doing it for 20 years. The product price we're getting is a great product price. 1 second, Mayor, just let me finish my train of thought. We're actually trying to look at, some type of a bagging capability, so we can buy it in bulk. And if we have, because we're gonna have this, some type of a solution for an extended period of time. And what I'm hearing from the council is we do not want to raise taxes, which means we have limited resources on staff time and limited resources on going out and doing this. So we may ask the community to engage in this and say, hey, look, we're going to have some bags of this stuff here. If you've got a pothole in front of your house, stop by City Hall, pick up the bag, show us a picture of it. We'll hand you the stuff that you need. You can take it in, drop it. And then, we'll have Josh go around and roll these things to try and keep the stuff done. So we're going to try and come up with some creative ways to do a longer term solution until we can get the road completely fixed. But
To simplify
uh-huh.
the whole thing, all you want to do is get new equipment to continue doing the job we already were doing.
Correct. Well, and it'll be at a
And a bit, a
quality.
little bit better, but you're not taking on any big monsters or anything. You just want to have a dependable tractor and some dependable
Why do
equipment.
you need four-wheel drive?
Is that right?
You don't need four-wheel drive for.
Okay, I was telling you why the issue came up on the four-wheel drive. And that is when FEMA brought the water rates, between the horsepower and not having four-wheel drive, we dug a rut in the ground, and we're not able to get one pallet of bottled water off that with the existing tractor.
Four-wheel drive is worth a little extra cost.
You're right.
And I'm pretty sure the four-wheel drive is costing us like $1,100 extra. on the
Some of
four-wheel
those
drive.
hills
John,
are
do you agree
really.
four-wheel
Yeah,
drive?
I spend a lot of time on these roads.
Two-wheel drive, the tires that we get today, a two-wheel drive with the loader, and for the city to be responsible, legally, you probably couldn't put, not legally, but, you could fill, if you're looking at a 72-inch bucket, you could halfway fill it with dirt, and you'd be over the weight capacity tires for a two-wheel drive.
And some of those hilltop.
Well, I promise you, everybody does it every day, but you cannot do it. You can't do it as a city.
Yes, sir.
We shouldn't be.
You can
Just fill in the
drive
pipe
in
if
there.
you need that four-wheel drive to get into it.
So
Yeah.
can we vote?
Yeah, so this is discussion. We're gonna take action on this later. I just wanted you to have questions. Josh is here if you wanna talk to him anymore. But like I said, if you guys,
No, I would like to let them get what they need to get the jobs done.
We'll go back to that in the voting
Awesome.
section. Okay?
Thank you
Steve,
for your input.
Were all your questions answered pretty well?
Yeah, I don't agree with what we're doing, but I can vote again.
Well, he doesn't have any roads that need to get fixed, so he don't care.
Okay, now, discuss with the staff the citizen survey and any questions that they would like to incorporate into the survey.
so I guess first off, did you guys get a chance to review the survey and the draft that was sent out to you? And if you did you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts? Of things you'd like to see different. So we worked with ETC and we put together this draft. This survey does include some questions about services that the city doesn't offer directly. So police and fire.
Happening
we're asking
today,
what people's
early voting
satisfaction
begins
with
through-
that is.
It's gonna be quite low.
Huh?
It's gonna be quite low.
We will, but it gives us a frame of reference as to where we are and where they would like us to do it. You can see in here that we ask what the residents feel is most important that the city should be focusing on moving forward. And then we also step in and we ask, if you want to see improvements in these areas, would you be willing to support a tax increase to improve those services? So you guys have the information from the community at large, and you're not hearing from a small segment of people. You should be hearing a representative voice from the community saying, well, if you're gonna spend the dollars here, then yes, we would, or no, we don't want to have any type of an improvement. And then we can then come back to the community and say, well, if we don't have the resources to do this, then this is the level of service that we can provide where we are right now. And it makes it pretty easy for us. I'd like to get this thing out as quickly as possible so that we can use this in budget process. And we're going to start the budget process in May. So, I'd like to be able to start getting this, completed and done. So, if you haven't had a chance to read through it, I would highly recommend you go through it and read through it tonight. Come back with any comments that you have. Because I'm looking at this and I'm, as far as I'm concerned, this is done for me. So unless there's something
I think it looks
specific that you guys would like to see different, then we're ready to move forward
We
with
may
this. and
have
get
to
it out.
change everything around as far as property tax comes in.
Well, I mean, ultimately what this is this is
But it's just getting
is
people's
data
opinions.
collection. This is
Yeah, I know, I'm just
getting
saying,
people
though.
to answer and let us know what their thoughts are, where they think we should focus, what they want to see the city look like in the future,
Yeah.
what we want to do.
But I think getting some of these questions answered is very valuable for us
Oh,
as a
yeah.
council to vote.
There's
I
a
agree.
bill right now in Austin, down there to do away with property tax, replace it with consumption tax. It's already gone through the House.
So there's a number of things that we've
So, I don't
got that we can look at on the TML that's later on here. I included the presentation that TML did for the legislative update, and there's a lot of stuff going on down in Austin that is impactful to cities and to communities. So, okay, well, I'm gonna leave it here unless you guys want to go through this right now, line by line, and look at that. Okay.
I already think it looks good.
G, discuss with staff the solid waste provider contract.
So we have an agreement right now that's in place. I can't remember the name of the company. It's Frontier, but Frontier purchased.
Midwest.
Midwest. Are you sure here for Frontier? I'm sorry, I didn't see you up there. I would have pulled this up earlier. If you want to come up to the front, I apologize. So we have an agreement that was purchased by Frontier Waste. The agreement basically requires a 180-degree cancellation, and that cancellation timeframe is coming up shortly. It's December of 2021. So I've reached out to them and talked to them about some things that we'd like to see. Overall, the comments that I've received back from people in the community is positive about Frontier. They think they're getting good service from them. The one thing that I have heard back from the council and from other people is they'd like to see more citywide cleanup days where they can come in and bring stuff. And so I communicated that to Frontier, and they agreed to increase the number of community-wide cleanup days to 4. So once a quarter, we can bring out the 4 big containers, open it up to the community for them to come in and dispose of those products. The rest of the agreement would stay in force. Nothing else really changes to it. It's just, amending it to incorporate those 4 things. And then the agreement would renew for the 5-year time frame that we have in place currently.
The amount of money that you're charging the customer is gonna stay the same?
It is. And this is not for vote tonight. I'm just bringing it up because I know that this is coming up down the timeline, and I, want you guys to be aware of what's happening so that you can have that. But I did invite them to come tonight if you guys had any questions for them or any, comments, that you'd like to present to them.
So how well was it, what was the participation level the last time they did it? Did we fill all up?
Oh, yeah, we filled up.
Like really
We
quick.
filled up like 4 dumpsters.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had
How
several
many
people,
people came, 20, 30, 50?
Oh, probably, honestly, we had a few people that came 2 or 3 times with a lot of stuff. I didn't count it, but I would say probably 30 or 40 people showed up with items. And it was from Skyview, we had people from over there, we had people from Rio Rancho, we had people over from Chisholm Trails area.
They had said on the Nextdoor app that some people came and it was already full, and it wasn't even half the
That's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great, I've had several that's asked, and several on the Facebook pages has asked when the next one is.
Well, the next one's coming up in May, and so, yeah.
May
So
15th. I'll be there.
So that's awesome.
So what all they gonna, can fit in?
Yeah, what kind of restrictions are there? Oils?
you cannot put any hazardous materials. That's a different, we're gonna have a conversation about that.
We just need to make sure they know that.
We have, it's on the flyer that went out to everybody as well. So, for the most part, I think there's appliances or certain appliances and electronic equipment, you're supposed to dispose in a certain way. We're not gonna take batteries, you're not gonna take.
Refrigerators.
Yeah, refrigerators, that has free.
Just about anything else.
But yeah, anything else really
Tires.
don't stuff.
You take tires, no
tires,
no liquid. waste, obviously, just basically what you call bulky waste.
Now, there's another item here, Mayor, item I. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this up into here. So when I got here, I was getting phone calls and people stopping in City Hall fairly regularly asking about hazardous waste disposal. And this has been on the agenda and I keep getting pushed trying to keep the agenda or the meeting times lower, but since we have this, I figure it's a good time for us to put it in here. We reached out to the city of Fort Worth. They have a hazardous waste disposal program, and they sent over a draft agreement that's in here. Basically, the way they look at theirs, you have to drive the materials to Fort Worth, to their disposal center. They have to show their ID or utility bill, and when they show that utility bill, the city of Fort Worth will bill New Fairview $50 per use. So every time somebody goes down there and drops something off, it's $50 a time. I reached out to Frontier and I asked them, I said, hey, we're looking at trying to come up with a solution for hazardous waste, because the concern is if we do not provide at least a somewhat easily accessible disposal mechanism, it ends up in the truck anyways, and trucks catch on fire. So I don't know if you heard about that, but one of the trucks caught on fire and had to dump on one of the roads. Two of them. Yeah, two of the garbage trucks caught on fire. So we don't want them ending up in the garbage trucks. We do not want them taking them out to the back of the property and dumping it out down there or burying it or doing whatever is on those lines. So we want to create a mechanism. And so Frontier came forward and they said that they would. Nope, it's the wrong one. I think I have it in here later on. Anyways, it's like $1.16 per month per home for them to do monthly front porch pickup. So if you have hazardous materials, you can put it on your front porch. They'll come in and they'll do the pickup of hazardous materials for $1.16 a month. If we do it quarterly, it's $1.03 per month per home. So, when we're looking at this amendment, I would like to recommend that we incorporate this into that amendment and allow them to go forward with this, and we provide that option community-wide so people can dispose of these things that are ending up where they're not supposed to
So
be.
is that a special call you make to come pick it up on your porch?
Yeah, just schedule it.
And does that include tires, the refrigerators, or just
really-
oils?
It's like household hazardous waste, like chemicals and paint and oil, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But not tires and batteries. No. Well.
So-
I don't think we'll get that done.
Well, the calls that I got were for oil-based paint. It primarily is what people were trying to dispose of. Latex paint, you can just open the can, let it dry out, and you can throw it away
Correct.
in a normal mechanism. But you can't dry out oil-based paint. It's there. But we did provide on some of the comments, AutoZone, you can drop off batteries there. There's other places where you can do it for some of these other things. But again, this is the council's choice. This amendment will be bringing forward in the upcoming meeting. So if that's something you guys would be interested in looking at, I would recommend it. Otherwise, we are going to have it being dumped and thrown into the back of the garbage cans and it's ending up where it shouldn't be. Do you have any questions for Frontier while they're here, or?
One thing, go ahead. A dumb question. On our next door app, a lot of people ask if there's any way our trash service can provide recyclables. You guys don't do anything like that for.
Right now, not in this area, there's really a market for that type of material. It's pretty much gone, and it costs more than actually process. It's probably twice what it costs to take to the landfill to process and stuff.
So China used to take all of our recyclables, and the contamination level really didn't factor in. About 2 years ago, they changed the rules on their contamination levels, and they went to 3% contamination. They've changed it again. I think it's now 1% contamination.
It's basically mean they don't want it.
So, and so ultimately what ends up happening is people, a lot of these things, if you actually look at the images, people are getting this recycling stuff, it's getting bells, it's getting shipped to the ports, and it's sitting on the dock and then going to the landfill. Because there is nobody to take this commodity and purchase it and make use of it. So you're seeing a lot of cities that are actually moving away from recycling because ultimately what's ending up happening is you're paying 2 or 3 times the cost of disposing for it, and 80% of it is ending up in the landfill anyways. So until the market adjusts and there comes up with some type of a use for these recyclables, there really just is nowhere for it to end up. I mean, this water bottle, if you don't take the cap off and this is not dry, it's not recyclable.
Oh dear.
You know, the cans in your house, if you don't take the wrapper off and clean the can and then let it dry, it's not recyclable. So I mean, the level of what you have to have for participation in clean recycling, it's so high. And I mean, what is it, Republic, they came out with a community service announcement thing that basically says, you know, when in doubt, throw it out. I mean, that's their recycling motto. You know, if you're not sure, throw it away. You know, because it's such a high degree of what you can have. And I can't remember, I mean, just a few years ago, you had 3 or 4 different recycling plants that were operating here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You're down, is it 1 or 2 now?
No, there's still several, but it's roughly $100 a ton to process this stuff.
And it used to be, how much were they paying per ton for plastic?
We used to pay, yeah.
Yeah, they were paying you to take your stuff, and now you're paying them to take your materials, so.
Okay, business not to be.
Moving on, this is a work session.
This is.
Back in the back, you're from Rock Lane. Did you have any questions
No.
from the last meeting that you attended?
No,
Yes, how's that going with Rock Lane?
we got some of the situations already taken care of.
What were they?
Dogs,
Dogs?
unvaccinated dogs running along. We took care of some of that.
Okay, good. And have y'all been over to look at the roads?
So Brock Lane is like Martindale. It's a private road. And so the only section of Brock Lane that is not a private road
Thank you.
is the section that's in the county. So that county section is dedicated to the county, but anything inside of city limits was never dedicated to the city nor improved. So, you know, we're in a similar situation. You know, we'll try and do what we can do to try and figure something out, but it is a private road.
Is there a plan to help them out in the future, or what are they planning on doing?
Well, so we'll have to sit down and have a conversation if we want to do something similar to what we did with Martindale. You know, with Martindale, we've worked with the oil company to participate in helping to maintain the road. The city owns that frontage on Martindale, and so we participated in part of the cost of the materials to fix Martindale. But ultimately, most of the cost is being passed on to them because it's private property. The city really, legally, we cannot spend public dollars for the improvement of private property.
So what do they have to do to go ahead and get into the city? Do they have to go ahead and build the road themselves? What are they going to do?
So you know, same thing as Martindale. We'd have to have an improvement made to the road, and then that improved road would have to be dedicated to the city in order for the city to take on the obligation.
Are they ready to start a 2-3 year plan to get that road fixed?
Yeah, and county comes out with the graders, and they do county line roads, South County line roads, 407 North, and they do Brock Lane also, when they do it. But my initial question to them is, how often is there any way we can get them to come more often? Just like last week with the rain, I mean, there's holes that big, you know, that deep, and, you know, we go out there with tractors and kind of do it ourselves, where you can at least drive from down the county line is probably the worst part of it. But the school buses, there's 4 school buses in the morning, 4 school buses in the afternoon. There's one that runs midday, and then of course the waste garbage truck once a week, and then the tankers that come down, they come down through Brock Lane and go out on the shoot range, all that. Of course, if we get the tank trucks to slow down to 50 miles an hour, that'd be big. We can fix that too, if they don't slow down.
Yeah.
And you say Martindale is working on a plan?
Yeah, so we've talked to them about the options before them. we'll say this is under item A for streets improvements.
Not work session.
Well, this is a work session. Streets was on the agenda. So Martindale, basically the options that they have before them is they can form an HOA and they can self-assess to pay for the maintenance of the road. We talked to them about the possibility of setting up a PID and just doing a PID over top of that area that is around Martindale. And if they do that, then the city could issue debt and actually could improve it, but they would have to pay the debt service payment on that for the next 20 years. That would probably increase their tax assessment per household, $1,500 to $2,000 a year to pay for the improvement. So we've sat down and we've given them a whole bunch of different options as to what that could potentially look like. And they have not come back with what they would like to do moving forward.
And probably you're dealing with Scott Johnson on that, so he.
No, we hosted, I think we had probably 70% of the residents here at City Hall several weeks ago.
And the planning and zoning committee, where is it right now?
They're meeting on April 26th. We're gonna have an orientation for them.
That's gonna be their first meeting or second?
That's their first meeting. That's their orientation meeting that we're gonna start off with.
Okay, discuss with staff and the community, the Northwest ISD bond.
So this item, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to have a little bit of break.
Oh, absolutely. Mayor?
Yeah,
No, I-
because it is, I was gonna go with you.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have a quorum.
So, yeah. Oh, man.
So Mayor, we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
Yeah, my wife got pictures of you stuck out here down there. With the lawnmower.
I got pictures of that. There's twice I picked them up there and, the other day, I was driving it and the thing stalled. Well, we have this got caught on the brake. It was water. It was looking at the water.
I would say that is look at it.
Well, I tried to. She brought down that there. It takes me a good couple hours by the time I was like, I had to finish all the way there. It's why I told her. Spray it out. And when I took the other guy, they were taking me to the other guy.
Yes.
Yeah, here's the liquor store, convenience store, next to that. I swear.
As big as they
Yeah.
Yes.
Just, he's got an arrow. I'm looking
Well, this election is probably so for for us.
It's not like.
Oh, really? Your house school is up.
Yeah.
No, that's it. It's just- I just like- I don't know. You have to go back. If you- Yeah, I don't know on Northwest. If they don't adopt it. You get the exception, that's X number of dollars, and you have to let us so they tax it. I tell them all the time, it's like it's not just. Those kids not running around.
So he bought the. Is it a city or? Would that keep like the trucks?
That's why you have to franchise. Yeah, because you don't want to have trucks running out here to see a trash can.
We're all running down.
There's another, there's a building called the station right now. Because they're saying we're. Well, you can see that argument, they're not telling you that you're gonna be able to, recover the cost of your loans. We put 5, trumps in so it's one of those things where, would it not be better for local control to decide where you wanna have
I know you're French, no. But he is.
Well, that's what I got. I got 2 G's. With different names. I know. There's only one. Now, if there's another truck that you're running, we're not supposed to.
Because I thought our neighbor had a different company entirely.
Well,
How do we stop them then? But they bought, what company they bought? So that's your problem. That's fine. You're thinking, hey, I'm from the Midwest, so maybe they didn't.
Yeah, Midwest was.
Because our neighbor.
We have to. Again, one of them, I think, are Midwest, and 2 of them are yellow and green.
Okay.
You're gonna be a lot of different this.
Mine is. Yeah.
From here.
Okay.
All right.
Time to roll, right?
Right, here we go. What time is it anyway? Oh, we might get out of here by 10.
Time to roll. Call Jimmy Jones.
All right, here's the pizza.
Everybody's back.
Okay, we're gonna be able to, we're back in, session. The time's 8:54. H, discuss with staff, the community, the Northwest ISD bond election.
So this item was actually requested by Patrick.
I wondered what it had to do with the city of New Fairview.
Well, so Patrick wanted to find out and wanted to discuss with the council what benefits are going to be, how much of this money is getting spent to improve or make benefits to the city of New Fairview. And so I actually went through and looked at it, and honestly, most of the improvements are in the areas where you're seeing rapid growth, which is over in North Lake, Justin, Hazlet area. Of those capital improvements, the $712 million. Stadium renovations, middle school recreation facilities, technology would be improvements across the entire district. So
Yeah, no, the capital improvements, they are going to replace the Seven Hills.
Oh, yes.
Which
What
is,
was that?
which actually is
Something
several.
about.
Serves this neighborhood. Okay, so Seven Hills, they're gonna, that was built in 1988, I believe. They have a school that they're going to demolish and rebuild. Yeah, okay, so there will be that one facility that they would be.
And then also Northwest High School, they're going to increase the capacity
Mhm.
by,
1,200.
Yes. All the years.
Yeah, so honestly, I went through here, I actually put the link on here, so if you guys want to, we can go through and look at it. It shows you the detailed expenditures, what it is. This was Patrick's baby, so I figured Patrick was gonna run with it and talk about it.
It will benefit. And one of the things that they're advertising this time, correct me if I'm wrong, but they said that there will not be any increases in taxes this
No,
time around
not to the actual tax rate, but of course, like.
on what they're gonna
Everybody
charge.
got their appraisals this weekend, so you're really paying more.
Prices went up.
Yeah, prices going up, but, the tax rate actually came down, for instance, in INS last year. And honestly, even with this massive fact, that's not turned out again, just because,
The retirement of that.
so much is also coming on to the tax rolls, $20 billion basically facility.
Supposed to be that.
You're only 5 years away from, I think it's 5 or 7 years, of tax rolls coming on to it.
And it's like any of the districts that have had a lot of growth, they know the growth is gonna continue. And if you miss a few years building in that time,
Playing catch up.
you can't catch, it's
I mean,
difficult to
this year,
catch
they got
up.
packaged in 3 years.
And the superintendent had wanted to come out here, but he just wasn't able to work out. He
Well,
wanted
no,
to
the
make-
superintendent came out and talked to us in November. And that's, that.
Well, he wanted to come back again.
Oh, I sent an email over to.
And it was Scott.
Sluter came, he's on, or he is, or he's running.
He is on the school board.
Yeah, he's running for reelection.
I reached out to them and said, hey, I know this is short notice because Patrick asked to put it on the end of last week. I did not hear back from them, so I can reach out again if you guys would like. And the election will occur before our next
No,
meeting.
it's-
I mean, it really doesn't have anything to do with us anyway. He wasn't on, which one's the ballot here?
Well, it's on the ballot if you live in Northwest
Right.
ISD. So you are in Decatur ISD, it's not gonna show up on your ballot. But it's gonna show up on Nolan's ballots, it'll show up on other people's ballots that are.
Where's the line? Where does the?
It's right by, is it 2264 to 407?
Basically, it's like right here.
On 2264, it'd be up here, just in the
So it's to the right hand side of that.
Lisa,
Well, no,
which one are
so
you
for you guys,
Right past
basically,
my house.
the cutoff line.
Past your house?
Is, the southernmost portion of the hilltop development. So the line runs right along the bottom of that.
Okay.
Okay. Gone.
Okay, man, I see, I missed the first part of the meeting with Patrick. Did he come or did he just send a letter?
He came and resigned.
Okay.
He sent a letter last week. I asked him how he wanted to announce it. He said he'd like to talk to the council in person and let them know that he was grateful for this time to serve and that he wanted to let the community know as well, so.
And I'm putting you on the spot, but what are your options? What are gonna be the city's options on replacement? Are you gonna have to talk to Bradley about that?
Well, no, so this would be the same thing, this would be an appointment. And I would recommend that the council, and again, this is not on the agenda, so, but.
Wait till after the election.
Yeah, well, the election's gonna occur before your next meeting anyways.
Right.
So, I would say we do a similar process to what we did before, which is accept applications and the council can review and they can make a decision.
Solicit before?
We just notified people on our website and through email, Facebook, let them know that there was a vacancy that was gonna be filled.
And you had people to go ahead and speak to us.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna,
He's placed what? He's 2 or 4?
he was
He's
unopposed.
place 2, place 4 is there, and then place 5 is Nolan, so, yeah. One.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go back to,
We already said open forum.
okay? Consent items.
New business?
Yeah.
There's no consent item, so.
No consent items.
Because you did that at the first of the month. New business, all matters listed as new business will be discussed and considered separately. Discuss, consider, and act on a resolution. And I'm just gonna say, as stated, there you go.
There you go. So the amendment or the agreement that you see in the packet, we've had some additional conversations between the developer, Bradley, and myself, and the final agreement will include the amendments that you see right here if the council chooses to approve it. And basically what they are is that the developer will provide dust mitigation on Graham Road until the improvements are completed. So they're going to come out and put down some type of emulsifier, they're going to put down some type of a dust suppressant to keep this dust on Graham Road down as much as they can. The second part of that is that they're going to agree to improve Graham Road within 90 days of the plant opening to the public. And the problem for that is that I don't know that I get the concrete right now to pour the road and do all the rest of the improvements that we need. Once I get the plant up and running, I can produce the concrete locally and I can get it completed and get it poured. So he's asking for the council to allow 90 days from the date that he opens the plant to make the improvements to the first 815 feet of Graham Road. And then we have clawbacks into that basically that state that if he doesn't meet the timeline, we revoke the certificate of occupancy and they lose the revenue share between the sales tax to help cover the cost of that facility. Now, on the other side of the equation, initially they had agreed to place 4 dispatch locations at the Graham Road facility. Now they have agreed to include any facility that they have in Wise or Denton County. In our initial conversations, they said they were looking at potentially 7 or 8 different locations, potentially as many as 10 or 11. So it's going to increase the number of locations where we'd be looking at sales tax sourcing.
How can we collect tax if it's not in the city limits?
Well, so it depends on.
Or the ETJ,
So right now, sales tax generation is based upon
where you deliver.
purchase, where you purchase it from. So the city of, or the town of Westlake has Fidelity, and Fidelity offers services. Some of those services are taxable. And so since Fidelity's headquarters or their services providers are located in the town of Westlake, it generates millions of dollars a year of sales tax revenue off of a non-retail location. This right here, if they are dispatching and they're selling it, so this is your point of sale. Point of sale is generally where you collect sales tax. So they would be doing all of their sales office materials would be coming out of this office for Denton and Wise County. And then they would dispatch from Ponder to deliver to wherever it was, but the sale still occurs in New Fairview.
So it used to be a point of delivery, right?
No. The legislation right now is looking at changing that from point of sale to point of delivery. So if they get through that push through, then that would make a big difference in how this would impact, but I don't know if it's going to go through or not.
You know what bill that is? It's kind of push through, I can look it up.
I can send you the
Okay,
information.
just send it to me, I'll look it up and see where it's at.
So this is, it looks like it's a positive thing. Anybody have any?
Is it gonna be what, 15 cents?
What?
How much money are we gonna be charging on the tax?
Well, this isn't charging money on tax. Basically,
I mean, charging money on the businesses or the
It's a
ETJ.
penny and a half sales tax, right?
so this right here,
Yeah,
we'd be collecting that penny and a half that we get for sales tax on any
Okay.
concrete sales that they have. They initially estimated somewhere around $50 million annually in concrete sales. If we get all of the facilities in Wise and Denton County, then they were saying $100 to $120 million in annual sales of concrete. That would be $1.2, $1.3 million in sales tax.
So, yeah.
I make a motion that we accept it.
So on this one, if you can make a motion to accept the document with the amendments as described, that way I can, because the agreement that you guys have in the packet does not reflect these two amendments to it.
Okay, so make a motion to accept it with the amendments.
Correct.
I make a motion to accept it as written with the amendments.
I second, I third.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor as stated?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Okay. And Richard, I want to tell you right now before I forget it, thank you for giving us the input on Northwest ISD. Because you know it well from attending their meetings, I'm sure. D, discuss, consider, and act on a resolution of the city of New Fairview, Texas, adopting the Wise County Emergency Management Plan.
This is kind of just it's something that the state requires. Every county has to have a countywide emergency management plan. All incorporated cities inside of that county are required to have it. We have an agreement with Wise County that we participate with them. This is amending the previous emergency management plan and bringing us into compliance. The information in the packet, kind of shows you what it is, but basically this came up following that storm that we had, the Stormageddon, and the state came back out and gave them a little bit of grace, but said everybody needs to update what their emergency management plan looks like, and this is the update that Wise County
Do we not need to set up an EOC though to be in compliance?
So the EOC for us is handled through the county.
Easy.
Yep.
Our plan is the county plan.
Our plan is the county plan, unless we want to fund a position and do some additional, spend some resources on doing that.
And this just, it just takes the mayor to sign off.
Correct. You're just authorizing the mayor you're approving the agreement, authorizing the mayor to sign.
Which is what you placed in our information.
Correct.
Yeah,
I make a motion that we approve item B as written.
I say,
Okay, any discussion? No more discussion. Okay, all in favor as stated? Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. C, discuss, consider, and act on the resolution of the city of New Fairview, Texas, authorizing the city administrator to participate in the maintenance equipment.
To purchase.
Purchase.
To purchase.
Are we gonna put a not to limit?
It's in the ordinance. If you look at the ordinance or the resolution itself, it says not to exceed 75,000.
It doesn't need to say it here?
No.
Okay.
The resolution that the mayor is going to sign says not to exceed 75,000.
Okay, there ought to be just some discussion about this,
We did, we just,
but there may be some more in here right now.
I think we get it. Do y'all get it? We understand it, right?
I do. I don't think we've done our due diligence.
So, are you okay with it?
yeah, I am, fine with it, the way it is.
So Steve, you say we haven't done our due diligence. What do you think?
There's a lot of tractors out there. There's a lot of tractor companies out there, a lot of tractor brands out there.
I don't know if the price is gonna be so far off than what is being presented that it's really gonna matter that much.
And I also don't agree, I mean, I heard what John said, but I don't agree that we need four-wheel drive. I have a tractor, I've had a tractor for 20-something years, I've never had a four-wheel drive tractor. Yes, I've got stuck several times, but I've also borrowed my neighbor's four-wheel drive and got it stuck too, so.
But have you been up and down Hilltop with loads of asphalt?
If I know.
So maybe that's what's
Steve.
required from somebody who has.
To help you to feel better about that, I guess I've got about 5 four-wheel drive tractors. It's incredible the difference it
Oh, I
makes.
know that, Joe, I have a four-wheel drive truck.
And it's the same principle.
Four-wheel drive
You
truck.
wouldn't have a two-wheel drive truck.
Huh?
You wouldn't have a
Oh, I
two-wheel drive
can't,
truck.
no. I have to pull my tractor out with my four-wheel drive truck.
Exactly.
It just, for me, it gives a lot better performance.
I know there's no comparison, I just,
It's not about traction, it's about safety and load capacity.
And what are you saying there, John?
The tires running on a two-wheel drive will not match the load capacity that you would put into the truck.
Well, I don't know what the, this is gonna come with a front end loader. I mean, the picture didn't show it, but I assume it is.
Yes, front loader.
And I don't know what the capacity is. The capacity on my current tractor, is supposed to be a ton, but it won't pick up a ton.
This one will.
Well, it will.
3,000 gallons.
And I've never had an issue with my tires as long as they're aired up. But yeah,
People feel different ways
Sure,
about
absolutely.
Well, and it's city work, there's a lot more than maybe just running
Oh,
around your
absolutely,
house. This is a
absolutely,
lot of,
absolutely.
anyway, yeah, that's.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Now, I make a motion, we accept this as written.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and second as stated. All in favor? That's 3 ayes, 3 in favor. Any opposed?
No.
And Steve has opposed. Okay, it passes. But we had a good discussion.
We did.
And if, we have down here, it doesn't state what the executive session was. Does that mean we're not gonna have one?
There's no executive session.
Excuse me, on the, part of the secretary. D, discuss, consider, and act on a resolution of the city of New Fairview, Texas, amending the New Fairview City Council procedures and decorum policy. I have to joke here. Seems like every 2 or 3 months, we're changing the decorum
Well,
policy.
and that's not uncommon. You're adding to it and you're just better defining what the rules are that you guys want to abide by.
Okay.
So do you want me to reread what it is you guys talked about, that we'll be amending the language for the attendance? So the city council attendance policy is defined as present at roll call until the meeting adjourns.
Correct.
So what we'll do is we will amend the decorum policy, and I'll share the link with you guys so you have.
So what you're amending on there is what we discussed about attending meetings?
Correct. All that's gonna happen is in that policy document, it's going to add another section in the definition area that says attendance, and it's just gonna have the
There
definition.
you
of
go. I was
attendance.
gonna say, it needs to say attendance. Okay.
Yeah,
And well, didn't we also discuss about, you missed
3 meetings.
3 meetings?
that's state law, and
That's
that's
state law?
statutory.
You don't want him to come back and bring it back?
We can layer that into
Vote on
this.
it at the next meeting. Do you want him to write it up and bring it back to you and vote on it in 2 weeks?
No, I think we got it.
Everybody good?
That's the only change we're making is.
Yes, we'll just be adding the definition of what attendance means. State law already states that if you miss
Okay, with me.
3 regularly scheduled meetings, that
Okay,
you're
good.
eligible for removal.
Just want to make sure.
All right, make a motion to accept as written.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second. All, no more discussion? Does it, okay. Wait a second, you're getting ahead of us. All in favor of this as stated? Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, everyone agreed. Now, executive session.
There's no executive session.
Okay, so when it said for the following, there wasn't any problem. Okay.
I make a motion we adjourn.
A second?
Okay, motion is second. Very good. Thank you. Great meeting. See you guys.
It was. This is very good. When we can get done at 9:16, that's excellent.
Yeah.
No, I told you online. I'll see you man through the election.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
You're gonna be disappointed. I resign.
Okay. Do you know everybody? All right.
Yeah, I'll resign.
Just real position at the flag.
I'll take that.
What happened? He resigned. He said he and his wife decided, this wasn't what they needed to be.
Okay, I assume that means something.
Okay, okay.
See you later.
I need something, I sold my place.